Okay, so this is the test with the Aldi Reusable bag. Timer. Okay, so those levels are definitely higher. I've got to take those away and have a look at them properly. But the sanding test doesn't appear at first glance to be any worse. Maybe it is a little bit. Let's have a closer look. Maybe a bit more of a ridge there than there was on the other one. So I'm going to leave the chamber to settle down and leave that camera running just to see how long it takes roughly. It's all settled, but while that's happening I'm just going to disconnect the extractor out of there and have a look at the inside and have a look at the bag to see what sort of state that's in. I can probably take a guess. So we're just going to ease the extractor out of there. Disconnect that sander for now. We'll take off our temperature sensor. Yeah, that's fairly conclusive, isn't it? You see there's an awful lot of, can you see? Zoom you in a bit. There's an awful lot of dust collected around the back here. So there's obviously dust coming out, as is probably going to be borne out by the numbers in there. But let's open this up and have a look. Yeah. Move you in a bit. I think it's safe to say there's quite a lot of dust in this chamber, far more than there was before, all around the insides here as well. Let me just get this other camera on. So yeah, lots more dust in and around the inside of the casing here, and all over the inside of the actual sort of chamber and all around the bag as well. It's obviously collecting some inside the bag there, but it's leaking an awful lot as well. I did have that zipped up, didn't I? I did have that zipped up, that's lucky. So yeah, lots of dust escaping around the inside of this, which, to be perfectly honest, is only to be expected, as we know that bag, the reusable bag, only filters down to 3 microns, whereas the festival bag goes down to 1 micron. So anyway, again, we'll take another break and come back to this. I need to run those numbers, maybe even put them on a graph, Keith Brown style. But we'll pop back in a minute and have a proper look at those. Okay, so we've crunched the numbers. We made some pretty charts to look at. What was I doing? What was I hoping to achieve? The Aldi vacuum obviously doesn't filter very finely with the supplied bag. They only say it filters down to 3 microns, which is pretty coarse. Fine for sanding and a bit of drilling, probably no good for sanding, say, filler. And that's been borne out by the numbers that we've got here. You saw the state of the inside of the vacuum. when we were just using the reusable bag. That was always going to be an unfair test. I always knew that was something like that was going to happen. And I always felt that the Festool bag would do quite well. What I hadn't realised, firstly, that it would do quite so well, and secondly, that it would have so little impact on the actual suction and on the actual temperature. These are the real surprises for me. Let's look at these charts. First of all, using Aldi's reusable bag sanding filler. As I say, it's an unfair test, but it is what it is. The Aldi reusable bag, the numbers were pretty high, obviously, for the greater than 1 micron particles, and surprisingly high for the 2.5. Not too bad for the 5 micron, obviously, because it's, in theory, filtering most of that out, but still pretty steep. The temperatures were quite high, as we expect, to be honest. It does seem to run quite hot. I didn't realise until I tested it just how hot it was running. Started off, it is quite a warm day here, about 26 degrees in the workshop. And after a minute, it was up to about 60 odd, 62, 64 degrees. That's pretty warm. It could be the fine filter, the fine dust particles clogging things up. Wouldn't surprise me, but I would want to keep a very close eye on that if I was doing any longer term sanding, and maybe there's another quick test in there. I know I said this is the last video, but maybe there's another quick test in there to do a longer 5 or 10 minute sanding test. I can't do anything now because of course the bag's filthy. I can't do anything with that until I get a new one or I get that cleaned. What really surprised me though was I expected fitting a finer filtering bag to increase the temperature, to reduce the airflow. And from the sanding tests, neither of which were particularly stellar, it's got to be said. But from the sanding tests, it didn't appear to be any worse for having the Festool bag in there. And weirdly, maybe because the bag isn't clogging, maybe because it's not spitting out so much rubbish at the back, but the temperatures were actually cooler over a minute with the Festool bag. They started off pretty much exactly the same, and the Festool got to high 40 degrees, 46, 48, something like that, whereas the Aldi, with the Aldi bag, was over 60. So again, not the result I expected there. Quite amazing. And again, the real eye-opener was the Festool disposable bag really does filter out a lot more stuff than the Aldi bag by quite a dramatic amount. These graphs are on the same scale, and I've had to put the Aldi bag up to 14,000 on the greater than 1 micron scale. I could have got away with 5,000 easily on the Festool disposable bag scale. So overall, it's filtering out a lot more stuff than the Aldi bag. So are there any downsides to using a Festool bag? I'm not sure. Cost, I guess. These are just over a couple of quid each, about £13 for a box of 5. If you're anti using disposable bags, then I guess you could turn them into a reusable bag. Don't think I'd want to get that close to the sort of muck and rubbish myself, but it's doable. There is a way to do that, and I might save that for yet another little follow-on video. But from what the tests show, and from my interpretation of the numbers, there's actually no downside, or there appears to be no downside other than the cost of the bags, to putting a Festool CTL Sys bag in your Aldi vacuum cleaner. Who'd have thought it? So that's it for this week. The Aldi vacuum continues to surprise me. I really wasn't expecting that set of results, I've got to say. I mean, the numbers don't lie. What can I say? It does appear that you can significantly improve the performance of your Aldi Workzone vacuum just by adding a Festool CTL Sys bag to it. These bags only come in packs of 5, about £13 for a pack of 5, about the same price as a spare reusable bag for the Aldi vacuum. So if you don't want a pack of 5, you're going to have to gang together with a couple of pals. But these are, for Festool terms, actually quite good value for money. They're widely available. They seem to fit really well with a little bit of adaptation, and there does appear to be no downside to fitting them. Quite the opposite. The machine seems to run cooler, even on this most difficult of sort of sanding filler type tests. So yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. I just want to take a minute to thank my Patreon supporters as well. There's been a few new people arrive since the 21 months on YouTube video. I just want to say hi to them and thank everybody for their continued support. I don't do a great deal for my Patreon supporters other than continue to make sort of hopefully interesting and entertaining YouTube videos. And one of the things that does come up from time to time since I've been monetizing, which is only for this year, is that some people say, well, I'd like to support you directly, but I don't want to do Patreon, don't like Patreon for whatever reason. That's absolutely fine. There is now finally a direct donation link. It's on the 10minuteworkshop.com website, and there's also a link in each of the video descriptions to that. It's a bit.ly link. It's a donate to 10 Minute Workshop. If you follow that, you can make a donation of any amount you like, small or large, whatever you can spare. And if you don't want to do that, well, that's totally fine. As long as you keep showing up and keep watching the videos, I'll be happy. But that's everything for this week. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.